Our next guest was named the top investor under 30 by Forbes in 2015, and one of the best young entrepreneurs, you can tell my glasses are back there, by Business Week. Joining us now, live from San Francisco, help me welcome OpenAI CEO, Sam Altman.
Sam, good to see you, man.
Good to see you too.
Thanks
for having me.
Thanks for being with us. And by the way, this is not video, he's live.
I am live.
And I'm gonna protect his location. He's not in San Francisco, but I'll protect his location. I will tell you, it took considerable effort for Sam to do this. He is, I'll just say, halfway around the world. So I wanna thank you for doing this for me and for us. Because you're a special guy, man. You're a quiet storm.
Thank you for saying that. It's really nice. But no, it's my absolute pleasure to be doing this.
No, let me just tell the audience a little bit from a perspective that they will understand. Please allow me to embarrass you a little bit. But probably one of the most dressed down billionaires you'll ever meet. That's about as fancy as he gets. An early investor in Airbnb, Stripe, Reddit, Pinterest, Instacart. You starting to get it? I'm sorry, are you with me? Are you starting to get it? He's now launched OpenAI, a research company that wants to use digital intelligence to benefit, not harm, humanity. I've often said, Sam, that we're sitting in a moment in history, but history does not feel historic when you're sitting in it. It just feels like another day. But that doesn't mean the moment we're in is not in fact historic. So before you comment on this discussion about humanity and AI, artificial intelligence, and talk about what prompted you to start the venture, I want to tell a quick story. So I'm in the middle of America at a conference with Chaitra, my wife, and we're hearing this young man, and Sam and I haven't talked about this, we're hearing this young man who's younger than Sam give a presentation about a rocket that he wants to design through 3D. Sam, can I talk about this? I guess
yeah, sure.
And
all good.
And they met at a coffee shop, and the guy pitches them on the idea, and I think the guy wanted $250 million, if I got the number right. And if I get this story right, this is a 3D rocket, three-dimensional, basically you print it, a printable rocket that goes, into space. And Sam, if I get this right, said, that's a ridiculous idea. That's completely crazy. And Sam makes the investment. I'm sitting there with Chaitra going, okay, this may be Sam's demise. He's been a great investor up until now, but you go far enough to the North Pole, you end up south. And the guy goes on to tell the story, again, true believer, that they developed a rocket in basically a warehouse in a month that used to take a year to produce one rocket. And that company now is being hosted, if I get this right, Sam, at NASA, has a launch pad, and has been given access to thousands of acres of government-endorsed and supported technology at NASA from an idea on the back of a napkin at Starbucks.
It's been amazing to watch.
Did I get any of that wrong?
We invested much less money. They raised that much later, but when we first met, they were raising like $120,000 just to get started.
They're raising $120,000, and this is now one of
very early on.
half dozen companies that now is essentially a hosted guest of NASA.
It's incredible. From nothing to this in just a few years. It's really been remarkable to watch.
And what used to take, you know, different sites in a year or two to build, now it's possible to build a rocket, as I understand it, in basically a month's time. Something like, yeah. So I'm connecting this now to your vision about AI, because both of these require you to see around corners. So help the audience to understand, those who want to be like you, those who want to emulate your success. What's that clear line of sight thinking that allows you to see around those corners and to grab a hold of that vision?
I've never figured out how to see around corners. The thing that I think you can learn how to do is learn how to see exponential curves. And that's, we don't seem to be well programmed to do that. It's not natural. We sort of think about things that grow linearly. But when you can identify a technology that is going to grow exponentially, I think artificial intelligence is certainly one of these. 3D printing was another. And you're able to then get a bunch of other people to really believe in that vision with you and stay at it for a long period of time. Technology is magic, and you can do incredible things. I think that the world needs a lot of this right now. Our vision at OpenAI is, we think this new technology is coming that is going to be a bigger deal than anything before. It's going to change our whole world. We're going to have computer programs that can think, come up with new ideas like a human, smarter than any human. And, we want to make sure that happens in the good way, not the bad way. There's plenty of scary versions of that, but there's incredibly great ones too, where we all have more abundance and better tools and services than we can ever imagine before. And, that's the kind of stuff that I like to work on. And I think a lot of people get inspired. One of the things that I have learned counterintuitively is it is easier to start a hard company than it is to start an easy one. People really get excited to help you if you're going to do something very ambitious. People want to join that company, work at that company, fun to be around it. And so my advice to everyone thinking about it is don't be afraid of your most ambitious ideas. Those are, everyone thinks those are too hard, but those are the easier ones to make happen.
And when did you start thinking like this, Sam? Like, how old were you when you leaned in to your first major think big idea?
I was very lucky in that I met a guy when I was a sophomore in college named Paul Graham, who has been an unbelievable mentor and hero to me and many other people. And he started Y Combinator, which was an organization that I ran after him that helps people get started with their companies. We funded thousands of companies. You mentioned a bunch of them earlier.
Yep.
But it's been very rewarding because he did something for me that was super valuable that I then got to do for other people, which is believe in someone and help them become more ambitious. And I'm sure if he didn't do that, I would never have learned to think that way. So I'm very grateful he did.
So for what that mentor did for you, you effectively did for that young man in the coffee shop. You're paying it forward.
Yeah, and it is one of the most rewarding things to do. I truly believe that kind of like the way the world works is, you like find a crew of people and help that you can bet on and believe in and help lift them up, and they create far more success for you than you could ever create for yourself. And also, it's just felt great to do.
And given that I'm paying you a total of $0 to inconvenience yourself in the middle of the night to do this from halfway around the world, my guess is that there's a little bit of your heart in this conversation as well. Why?
I can't believe what an important secret it is that startups work. They can change the world. They're the best way to create wealth for yourself, for communities. They're the best way to make new things happen. That is maybe the single most important secret I've ever learned. And I'll take any opportunity I get to try to explain that to other people. I love talking about that. I love doing classes about startups. It's a little bit of an addiction, but it's something I really believe in.
And do you believe, Sam, and I want to get back to AI here in a second, but do you believe that there's genius, Sam Altman-like genius, in urban, inner city, and rural communities waiting to be tapped also?
Absolutely. I think this was part of what Y Combinator found out or kind of believed in, a way that talent is evenly distributed. throughout the entire world, but opportunity is not. And I think one of the magic things that Y Combinator showed is if you have a way to distribute that opportunity outside of the traditional, you have to like know a VC, which is how it used to be, have a warm introduction, whatever.
Capitalist.
If you can get around that, if you can just sort of make the system more inclusive, you find the individuals that can do this, that create these companies everywhere. And I so deeply believe that. And I think it is that's like as close to a purpose as anything I've ever found.
Two questions. One.
Also, YC wants to help. If you're thinking about this, I don't work there anymore, but I have a lot of pride in the organization, and I can't recommend it highly enough as a way to get started.
Can you name the organization again for the audience?
Y Combinator.
Y Combinator.
Please check it out. Right. Yeah.
Two questions. Where does your decency come from? The fact that when you and I have spoken, it's always been, you don't use 20 words when two will do. You're not self-important in the sense that you sort of know who you are and you know your faults and your talents, and you're not bragging on your talents. We're just having a conversation. Where'd that sense of decency come from? And hopefully the answer inspires others to follow your lead as they come up as a young, successful person. Number two, I want to talk about AI and why you believe this can be a force for good, because a lot of people are afraid of the power and possibly the negative corrosive effects of artificial intelligence.
On the first one, that's like very nice of you to say. I am sure all of the credit goes to my parents and my teachers and the people that I grew up with and the people that have, mentored me along the way. And any little bit of arrogance that's still there is my fault. But I've always noticed that the people that I want to work with and that I want to help are the people that are kind of the least pretentious, the most open, the most sort of willing to help. And it's I found in my own experience that, not only do I like acting that way, but it always seems to work out the best. And everybody's happier. It's just like a better way to live life. I don't think people need any more like obnoxious tech people. On the comment about AI, like, look, I think it's very understandable to be scared. And I think if people aren't a little bit scared, they're not paying attention. We're talking about creating something that is more powerful than any of us in a way. And we're talking about something that can do sort of one of the things that is the most human of all of our capabilities. The reason we started the organization is that the stakes here are so high. This can be either incredibly good or incredibly bad. So the sci-fi movies where the robots like wake up and, cause us harm, that's obvious. But there's other versions where, it like distorts the algorithms online and convinces people of bad things, or it sort of incites violence, or it makes us just feel bad about ourselves, or who knows what else. Like we've seen recently how technology that wasn't intended for anything negative can be used with quite bad effects. But the upside here is huge. And that's why we started the organizations, because we wanted to be this independent entity pushing things in the way that we think. We came up with this new structure to do it called a capped profit. So our investors can make a fixed amount of money, but then after that, we share everything equally with the world, which I think is what's going to have to happen if we really do make AGI. It's going to have massive economic impact on everything. A lot of jobs are going to go away. There will be new ones, of course, but there will be this strange transition period. And we wanted to be able to share the benefits of that with everybody. We also wanted to be able to make sure that we could do all the safety research that we needed. We didn't have like the pressures of having to like profit and be part of a big company so that we don't end up in that bad direction. So lots to be scared of, but on the other side, like, I think we can imagine a world where everyone gets a great education, everyone gets great medical care, everyone can have like beautiful houses. We have tools that can like make us maximally effective, maximally enjoy our life. I think it's like hard to imagine how good this technology can be on the upside.
The reason I asked about your decency, commented on it and asked where it came from, Sam, was that it's going to be, those values are going to be really, really important as you lean into AI. In some ways, you've got the indirect power of a head of state. And
it's nice of you to say that, but I really don't think we can rely on any one person's set of values. I think we're going to have a very important and difficult collective humanity-wide conversation about what human values we want to put into the system we're going to build. And I don't think any one company, and certainly not any one person, should get to decide that.
The exact right answer, Sam. So, go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to wrap up with a couple questions that talk about the future. How do you think AI will change the economy? And specifically, how will it affect folks who are already struggling? Question number one. Question number two, tied to that, what most excites you about the future? And what should everybody watching this forum be paying attention to that they're not?
Look, it's always hard to predict exactly how a technology is going to affect the economy. And with AI, people have mostly been wrong with their predictions. Everyone said we're going to have self-driving cars sooner than we have, and that truckers were going to be out of work. People have also said that with AI, we were going to creative jobs were never at risk because AI didn't have creativity. And what's happened is AI can now generate pretty good art and pretty good music, but it still can't drive cars. So I think that's like an example of how it's difficult. But I think that what we're seeing so far is that AI is creating these tools that can't replace humans, but they're good in different ways than humans. So we released a product called Codex that can help a human write code. And maybe that human coder can now be twice as productive and spend more time on the parts of their jobs that they like. But that thing can't go replace a human coder. I think in the short term, we're going to see a lot more of that. In the long term, I do think it is going to do some full jobs, and I don't think it does us any good to pretend otherwise. Like that does seem to be the trajectory we're on here. In terms of how it's going to help people, I do think we are going to see the cost of goods and services that people need, the real necessities, come down by a huge amount over time. And the cost of a good life is just going to get much, much less expensive. And I think that will help people a lot. I think everyone on Earth is going to be able to get a really great education if they want it, and that'll help people a lot. So I think there's a lot of good things coming like that. And that's the kind of stuff that excites me, this idea that everybody on Earth gets an AI doctor that can help them get better medical care than the best person can get today. I think that's going to be super inspiring. The fact that AI will help us solve diseases that right now humans just can't figure out how to solve. Super excited for that. So I think that's all really good. The stuff that excites me about the future, AI the most. I do, and then the other categories are energy and what's happening all across there to get to much less expensive, better for the planet energy. Biology and all the progress we're making, finally being able to control and edit biology, I do think will cure a lot of disease pretty quickly. And then with crypto, I think that is both a new financial system and a new governance system that most people are still underestimating. And to our point earlier about needing to get input from the whole world and how technological change happens and impacts society and not just the few people that happen to work at these companies, I'm very excited with everything that's happening in crypto to enable that.
Sam, we should work together on making sure that as you open up AI, we open up this conversation, as you have said, to the community to have input. And I commit to work with you whenever in any way that is helpful to you to make sure you have a broad, wide, and deep share of voice from a broad, wide, and deep share of really smart people who care about it.
I would love to do that with you, and I think now is the time to do it.
It's probably one of my most important conversations at a whole global forum in 28 years. Ladies and gentlemen, Sam Altman and the future.
Thank you so much for having me.
Appreciate you, my friend. God bless you.
God bless you.